Leela's hands trembled slightly as she wheeled herself into the cafeteria, the usual hum of lunchtime chatter rising and falling like waves around her. She had been in this school for only 2 months, and every day was still a battlefield in its own way. Born with a spinal condition that left her legs paralyzed, she had long since grown used to the way people looked at her. Pitying glances, mocking stares, sometimes even cruel whispers that were meant to sting. But today, she promised herself she would ignore them. She had survived worse. She had lived through endless hospital nights, pain so sharp it made her cry into her pillow, and loneliness that clung like a shadow. High school cruelty. She thought she could handle that. She just wanted to finish her lunch in peace. She maneuvered her wheelchair to the corner table, the one no one else bothered to sit at. Her tray rattled as she placed it down, trying to steady her hands. She unfolded her napkin and breathed deeply. But before she could take her first bite, she felt the presence of 3 shadows falling over her. Her heart sank. Wheels, sneered Troy, the self-declared king of the school's bullies. His smirk widened as his 2 friends, Kyle and Brandon, snickered behind him. Enjoying your little island of loneliness again. Leela kept her eyes on her food. Don't answer, she told herself. Don't let them win. But Troy wasn't the kind of person you could ignore. He leaned closer, his voice dripping venom. You know, it's pathetic. You think you belong here, taking up space, getting special treatment, making teachers feel sorry for you. The cafeteria grew quieter, conversations fading as students realized what was happening. Many looked away uncomfortably, but none moved to intervene. They had seen this play out before with other victims. No one wanted to be next. Lila's throat felt tight. She hated how small her voice sounded when she finally replied, "Leave me alone, Troy." He mimicked her tone in an exaggerated whine. "Leave me alone, Troy," he mocked, then burst out laughing. Kyle slapped him on the back. Brandon leaned against the table, eyeing Lila's wheelchair with a cruel curiosity. "You know what I wonder?" Brandon said slowly. "If she didn't have this chair, what would she even be?" Nothing. Just crawling on the floor like a bug. Something inside Lila snapped, but before she could fire back, Troy suddenly shoved her tray of food onto the ground. The cafeteria gasped as spaghetti and milk splattered across the tiles. "Oops," he said, feigning innocence. "Guess your little table got messy. Shouldn't have put it so close to the edge." Her chest burned with humiliation, but before she could pick up the tray, Kyle and Brandon circled behind her. Brandon whispered something to Kyle, and then Kyle grabbed the back of her wheelchair. She froze. "Don't," she began, but her words were cut off as they yanked the chair backwards, the wheels screeching. Students gasped, some even laughed nervously. Then, with one swift kick, Troy slammed his foot into the side of the wheelchair. The crack echoed like thunder. Leela screamed as the chair tilted violently and then collapsed under her, one wheel breaking loose and spinning across the floor. She crashed hard, her arms scraping the ground. The cafeteria erupted. Some students jumped up in shock. Others shrieked, but still no one helped. Leela lay there breathless, the taste of blood in her mouth from biting her lip. Her wheelchair, the one thing that gave her independence, that her mother had saved months to buy, was ruined. Destroyed in seconds. Troy crouched down, his face twisted in triumph. "Oops again," he whispered coldly. "Wuss, you're stuck now. Maybe crawl your way to the office." The boys laughed, high-fiving each other, basking in the horror around them. Tears welled in Leela's eyes, but not from weakness. No, from fury. Fury at the cruelty, at her own helplessness, at the silence of the students who stood by. For a moment she thought of screaming, of cursing them, but the sound that came out was a broken sob. She hated herself for it. She hated how powerless she felt. And then from the cafeteria doors, a deep voice thundered across the room. "No she tea hell's Joe I gonna." The room froze, heads turned, and there he was, Ethan, Leela's older brother, home on leave for the first time in months, wearing his marine jacket, his frame towering, muscles coiled with discipline and strength. His eyes blazed as they locked onto the scene. His little sister sprawled on the floor, her wheelchair shattered, and 3 boys standing above her with smug looks. The bully's laughter died instantly. Ethan's boots struck the floor with purpose as he stormed forward. Every student instinctively moved out of his way. His jaw was clenched so tight it looked like it could break. His fists were balled, but it was his eyes, sharp, lethal, burning with protective rage, that made even the teachers in the room hesitate to speak. He dropped to his knees beside Leela, his voice softening as he touched her shoulder. "Lila, are you okay?" She nodded, weakly, tears streaming, but whispered, "They broke it. They broke my chair." Ethan's chest rose and fell with controlled fury. He looked up slowly, his gaze locking on Troy and his gang. His voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Which one of you touched her?" Silence. No one dared answer. The cafeteria felt like a battlefield now, the air charged, heavy, tense. "I said." Ethan's voice grew sharper, like a drill sergeant. "WSI showing off yo olei hands on my sestar." Troy swallowed hard, but he tried to put on his usual cocky act. "We were just messing around. She's fine, fine." Ethan stood, his shadow falling over them like a storm cloud. "You think destroying her wheelchair and knocking her to the floor is fine? You think humiliating her in front of everyone is fine?" His voice boomed through the room, shaking even the bravest hearts. Kyle stammered, "We didn't mean." Ethan's fist slammed onto the table, the sound like a gunshot. Every student flinched, his eyes narrowed, voice dropping to a low growl. "You think this is a game? I fought in deserts and jungles. I carried brothers bleeding out in my arms. I've faced men twice your size with weapons in their hands. And I'll tell you one thing. Cowards like you, who prey on the weak, you wouldn't last a second." The Troy's face paled. The cafeteria was dead silent now. Even the teachers didn't intervene, sensing this was a storm they couldn't control. Ethan stepped closer, towering over Troy until the boy had to crane his neck just to look up. "You picked the wrong girl. You picked the wrong day. And you picked the wrong brother to mess with." He leaned down, his voice like steel. "If you ever, and I mean ever, lay a finger on her again, you won't have to worry about the principal. You'll have to worry about me." The Troy's lips trembled. He tried to laugh it off, but no sound came. His friends stood frozen, their bravado shattered. Ethan turned back to Lila, gently lifting her into his arms as if she were the most fragile treasure in the world. "Come on, sis. I've got you." The crowd parted as he carried her out, her broken chair left behind like evidence of the cruelty she had endured. Students whispered, some in awe, some in shame, but none could forget the fire in Ethan's eyes. And in Lila's heart, though she still shook from the pain, a new warmth bloomed. For the first time, she didn't feel powerless. She had a protector, a brother who would fight the world for her. But little did Troy and his gang know this was only the beginning. Ethan wasn't done, not by a long shot.